Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1089, 1089, March the 31st, 2020, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well hopefully you're all doing well out there. You're not going crazy from cabin fever, climbing the walls. You know, it's okay to go walk around outside as long as you keep your distance from people. So feel free to go out and get some fresh air. You don't have to be cooped up inside all the time. Just to stay out of crowded areas. Take a walk in the park or something. If you're allowed, by the way. Quite honestly, some states, I guess counties, actually have the parks and things closed. It's not true where I live. Although the county where I live right now, we only have, as of Sunday morning, I looked at it, we only had 28 confirmed cases and no deaths. But I live in a rural farming area for the most part, so everything's so spread out anyway. I mean, we rarely come in contact within 6 feet of another person all day anyway, other than, our individual family members. So it's a pretty spread out kind of area anyway, so maybe that's why our numbers are so low, and hopefully it'll stay that way. But if you can get out, if you're not violating the law, and you can do it, get out and get some fresh air, that will help. Actually, it helps build your immune system, by the way, when you're out there, especially this time of year. It helps build your immune system by getting out, getting some sun, and getting a little exercise and exposing yourself to other things out in the environment. You actually pick up, not antibodies, but you pick up things just from the vegetation and all those things around that help build your immune system. So it's actually good. It's not so good to be cooped up inside all the time. You actually lower your immune system. Now, let's talk about Seth Rich. Seth Rich. As many of you know, before I ever started doing TowerGate videos, I did a fairly deep dive on Seth Rich. I did this, I think, 2 months after his murder. No, 3 months. It was in October of 2016. I did 2 videos totaling a little over 2 hours in length, where I went through the police report and all the known facts at that time and gave my opinions of what I thought may actually have happened with Seth Rich. We've been following this story now since that time, and this is a story I've always followed closely. I think it is connected to the TowerGate story, because I do really believe that Seth Rich was the person who downloaded or copied the files onto a flash drive, and that whether or not he personally transferred these to WikiLeaks or used an intermediary, I am not sure. But I am, in what role he had in getting this information to WikiLeaks, I don't know. But I do believe he was the person who downloaded or copied these files from within the network. I believe that was discovered, and I do believe that he was targeted. And I do believe that that's the reason that they first came up with the Russians hacked the DNC, because they knew that what he copied was going to somehow find its way into the public domain, and they wanted to have an excuse or a reason. Now, they knew they couldn't, debunk what was in the emails, because those were in the emails, okay? So I think what they wanted to do was come up with a parallel narrative to drown out that narrative. And I think that was the whole point. And so I think that there is definitely a connection between Seth Rich, his murder, the alleged hack of the DNC, and the Trump-Russia narrative of, the emails being leaked to WikiLeaks and Trump somehow being a part of that, or his campaign or whatever. I believe that was all tied together, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that they discovered that someone had copied these files and were likely going to release them and do damage to the Right Reverend Clinton, her campaign, and the DNC. So that's why I think the story, that's why one reason why I follow the Seth Rich story, continue to follow it, because I think it is connected to the Trump-Russia collusion narrative going back to 2016. Okay, so the latest update on this story is that Ty Clevenger, who is the lawyer from Texas, who's really been tied into this, trying to get the truth about the Seth Rich investigation. Ty Clevenger has recently learned that the FBI did examine Seth Rich's computer. the FBI did examine Seth Rich's computer. And we know for a fact that Jonathan Moffa and Peter's been stroking us and Andy McCabe were all three aware of the so-called conspiracy theory about Seth Rich, about his computer. They had knowledge of what was done with his computer and that the FBI had taken possession of it and had done an investigation around it. Peter's been stroking us, Jonathan Moffa, and Andy McCabe. And we know that because of the testimony of Andy McCabe, as well as a former U.S. attorney. We'll get to that in just a moment. So, Ty Clevenger has recently learned that the FBI did examine Seth Rich's computer. He also has proof that the FBI lied to two judges about the extent of the investigation that was done into Seth Rich's murder. Clevenger has learned this from a former assistant U.S. attorney named Deborah Sines, S-I-N-E, Sines, who confirmed that the FBI did examine Rich's computer. Therefore, there are records which the FBI says do not exist. And they have told a judge that these records do not exist, but now we know that they do. So Clevenger is back in court requesting that the documents that we know now do exist be turned over through his FOIA request. Clevenger also previously, several months back, he had filed a complaint with the Department of Justice and had addressed the letter specifically to John Durham, Horowitz, and one other person, I can't remember who that was. But in that letter, he cites exact quotes from his client, Ed Butowski, and Ed Butowski explaining in his comments how this Ellen Ratner, this woman who's a reporter, used to be associated with Fox News, said that she spoke to Julian Assange, and he told her that it was Seth Rich and his brother Aaron that were really the ones who were the source of the WikiLeaks, John Podesta and DNC emails. This information was given to John Durham and Inspector General Horowitz. We've never heard either of them comment on it. And there was a third person, I can't remember who that was, but I think that would have been the Solicitor General as well. And we find out now that the reason that the FBI, one of the reasons that the FBI did investigation into Seth Rich was because when they analyzed his computer, they found that someone had tried to hack into his computer after his death. Someone tried to hack Seth Rich's computer after his death. And that's the main reason that they did their investigation. Now, the only way that they would know that someone tried to hack into his computer after his death is if they got into his computer. So, that is the latest on Seth Rich. Now, I don't know what to expect. I mean, I think Clevenger will continue to get the Stonewall treatment. I think our only hope of finding out anything more is what we may learn from Durham's investigation, whether or not he will even go down that path, and I don't know that he will, but that, I think, is the only way. Although it's possible, because remember, this is kind of in a civil case. This is not really a criminal case. It's a civil case, so, you know, it'll depend on the judge's ruling. But we can assume at this point that since he has filed this these documents with the court, and he states in here, and he proves it, that the FBI, and that would have been a guy named David Archie, FBI official named David Archie, lied to 2 judges previously about whether or not they had information or documents on Seth Rich or had investigated Seth Rich or looked at his computer or anything else. So it's very likely that because that the judges were lied to, that they may now show a little more interest. And also, the previous documents that Clevenger was able to get, which wasn't much, but they was almost completely redacted. Just literally, in fact, he said it was practically all blacked out. The only thing he could really see was who the correspondence was sent to and from. Just about everything in the body of the emails are blacked out totally. So you have to ask yourself, why is all this blacked out? So we'll continue to follow the story. We'll see what comes as a result of this, but I expect more stonewalling. But you never know. Maybe you'll get a judge somewhere down the line that will decide that this needs to be looked at. Again, I mean, we're talking about a FOIA request. There has to be a reason why they black out something in a FOIA request. It has to do with national security, classified information, or something. So what would be classified or of national security interest about a discussion about Seth Rich that would have to be blacked out? Was he involved in some sort of national security work? I don't think so. He was a DNC data analyst who was running programs that looked at and analyzed voter fraud and also voter irregularities. And he found a lot with the Sanders campaign that he was supporting. And he found out that it was games being played by the DNC, the Clinton campaign, and the media. So there has to be some reason why they're blacking all this stuff out. What would be of classified information or national security information that would have to be blacked out in these emails about Seth Rich? So hopefully Clevenger will finally get to a point where he'll get a judge that will actually force the release of what they've got, and in a way that that you can actually find out something. Sending him pages full of blacked out pages isn't exactly what you're looking for when you do a FOIA request. So hopefully he'll get a judge that will do something on this, because this continues to go on, and it's not going away. It's just not going away. I think someday we may actually learn the truth about this, although I think most of us have a pretty good idea what that truth is. And I'd say it's pretty bad. I don't buy the failed robbery. I don't think so. Uh-oh. More trouble for Richard Burr. In addition to being sued by stockholders, the Department of Justice is now investigating Burr after he dumped $1.72 million worth of hotel stocks after receiving a classified briefing on the coronavirus, at the same time that he was downplaying the potential threat publicly. Now, the FBI has interviewed Burr and is working with the Security and Exchange Commission in the investigation. I would certainly love to get rid of Richard Burr. He's a big problem. No question about that. He's a deep stater all the way. And I think he should probably resign, is what I would recommend he do. He will be certainly a target to be primaried against, I would think, as a result of this. But yes, he should just resign. Just the appearance of this is so bad. Of the 4 people accused, he's probably got the worst looking case, I would say. So yes, he does need to be investigated. But in the meantime, he just needs to step down. He needs to leave the Senate. And North Carolina, you can do a lot better for us than Richard Burr, believe me. Well, we have another disaster for Burisma Joe. I'm sure many of you have seen the last video, which may be one of the worst. I mean, he's getting worse, okay? And I'm just thinking as I was watching that video. Now, I've been watching these video clips of Biden interviews now for, I'd say, the last several weeks. I've noticed that I don't think in the last several weeks as I've watched him do these interviews where he's being asked questions, I don't think I've seen him actually answer a single question, really. It's like he starts to answer the question, but then for some reason, he'll get, bumble his way through an effort to answer the question, and he'll stop himself. He does it every time. Oh, okay, well, I've said, no, that's enough. Let me go on with something else. It's like he cannot. The guy literally has not answered and completed an answer to any question he's been asked in the last 3 or 4 weeks I've been watching videos. Not one. Not one. He's getting worse, and he's getting worse very, very rapidly. So let's go through this latest one. It's a beaut. So he's being interviewed by PMS MSNBC, and he's just mumbling, and he says, quote, now this is the exact word for word quote. All these quotes I'm giving you, I wrote down word for word. He says, we have to depend on what the president's going to do right now, and first of all, he has to wait till the cases before anything happens. Look, the whole idea. And that's when he stops. And almost as if he's out of time, or that he's answered the question, or that something else popped into his head, or that he almost acts like, well, I'm getting in too deep into details and you won't understand, so I'll stop, or something. There's something going on here. But that was literally the answer to some question he was asked. So let me give you that exactly again. And you can see what happens. This happens every time. You can see where the disconnect happens. He attempts to answer a question. He gets about 1 or 2 sentences out. And then he literally loses track of what he's doing. It's like, poof. His mind goes blank. And then he has to get out of it. And he has various techniques for doing that. So here it is again. Quote, we have to depend on what the president's going to do right now. And first of all, he has to wait till the cases before anything happens. Look, the whole idea. And then he just kind of spaces out, in which case the interviewer realizes that he's just given a complete gobbledygook answer that makes no sense whatsoever, that he completely lost his train of thought after the second sentence, and then just says something crazy that makes no sense. And then, of course, did you get another question? And again, in this interview, he said Luhan instead of Wuhan. That's the second time he's done that. Then he says, going on in the same interview, he says, quote, I was literally on the phone at least 3 to 4 hours a day with my team talking about the detailed implementation. He says implementation. How do we get the money? What do we do? Who do we ask for? This was an interview that was done yesterday, on Monday. He says, I was literally on the phone at least 3 to 4 hours a day with my team talking about the detailed implementation. His team's a political team. His team's not a bunch of economic advisors and health people and all kinds of people like that. He's got a political team around him to help him try to do a video podcast or get to a speech or get to an interview. 3 to 4 hours? Can you see a 3 to 4 hour meeting with Biden and a bunch of his people? What are they trying to? I mean, he's not the president. He and his team have absolutely nothing to say about anything that's going to happen that Trump and his team are actually really working on. Trump has a real team of real financial people, of real economic people, of real medical people, across a wide range of disciplines having to do with our economy, transportation, logistics, and everything else. Biden's got a bunch of hacks around him who do political stuff. They don't know anything about any of this. As if he's like having these high-level consultations about what should be done. He hasn't got a clue, nor do the people around him. And do you really think he spends 3 to 4 hours a day? If that's the case, he would be loaded with information. He could just sit there and just boom, just like Trump, can stand up to the microphone and just go through hours and hours of information. Because he's in all these meetings, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, working on the problem. But Biden, supposedly 3 to 4 hours a day with his team, he should have a lot of information. But when you get him in an interview, he doesn't seem to know jack shit. Then he goes on, how do we get the money? We're way past that. Remember, this is an interview he did yesterday, Monday. Where do we get the money? Well, we've already solved that problem. The Treasury is going to produce the money. They're going to print the money, the Treasury. That was never a toughie. That was never a biggie, okay? That one was pretty much figured out very easily. There's only 2 places we get the money, really. Either you have the Federal Reserve print it, and then they justify it, or they back the printing of the money by selling bonds, T-bills, treasury notes, currencies, bonds, whatever. Or you have the Treasury print the money, which is what Trump did. And you bypass the Federal Reserve. That way you don't have to pay all that interest. Plus, it gives the Treasury, which means Trump and Mnuchin, the decision on how much money to print and where to put that money, as opposed to letting the Federal Reserve decide. Where do we do? Well, most people use the restroom. I don't know where Joe does the do, but most people do it in the restroom. Where do we do? How do we get the money? Where do we do? Where do we do? Where do we get the money and where do we do? 3 hours a day with his expert team, and the only thing he can tell us is that they're talking about detailed implementation. How do we get the money? Where do we do? Who do we ask for? Who do we ask for? Man, this guy's... That's bad. That is really bad. It's nonsensical. Again, he cannot fully... If any of you can give me an example, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, from all the interviews he's done, of him actually completing the answer to a question in a way that it actually makes sense, please leave me a link. Or tell me what that video is. I'll go find it. Because I haven't seen it yet. I've not seen him answer one damn question. In completion, complete the answer to a question. Every time I see him, he gets a sentence or two into it, and then it falls apart. And it makes no sense. Now, it gets so bad at this point that he actually looks down at note cards and starts trying to read. When he's asked about, what we should be doing, and if he was president, what would he be doing, that type of question. Then he actually looks down at note cards and begins reading. And he goes, quote, remember, he's reading off of note cards, just like I'm doing right now. He looks down and says, and in order to avoid that, those very high numbers, we have to do at the very least several things. One, we have to depend on what the president's going to do right now. And first of all, he has to wait till the cases before anything happens. Look, the whole idea is he's got to get in place things that were shortages of. Let me read that to you again. This is exactly word for word what he said, reading off of note cards. And in order to avoid that, those very high numbers, we have to do at the very least several things. One, we have to depend on what the president's going to do right now. And first of all, he has to wait till the cases before anything happens. Look, the whole idea is he's got to get in place things that were shortages of. I kid you not, my friends. That's exactly what he says. Not a single bit of this entire interview of these three questions, and this is just three questions from the whole interview. And this last one, he was reading. None of this makes a lick of sense. It's complete psychobabble. It's nonsensical psychobabble. Then, believe it or not, he finishes up by promising that if he's president, he will guarantee that employers provide 14 weeks of paid leave. 14 weeks of paid leave. Can you imagine the federal government mandating private business to give their employees 14 weeks of paid leave? And when you watch the people, whether it's the Commie News Network or ABC or MSNBC, when he gives these sorts of answers or makes these kinds of statements, they don't bat an eye. They don't follow up with a follow-up question. They don't. I mean, this make your eyes pop out. Wait a minute. Did you say 14 weeks of paid leave? 14 weeks of paid leave? That's nearly 4 months. It's nearly a third of a year. Nope. Interviewer doesn't bat an eye. Not a single follow-up question to any of the other three questions I just went through. Total psychobabble. You would think that the average person, like me or you, would look at him and go, wait a minute. Whoa. Okay. I don't think I understood your... Okay, let's try again. Here was the question. Can you be more specific about what you would do? I mean, just about anybody. You can walk up to anybody on the street who's not even running for president in this country and say, if you were president, what three things do you think we need to do right now? And I think most people say, well, gee, we need to find a cure for the virus. Let's do that. Let's put all hands on deck to find a cure. In the meantime, we need to make sure that we have all the medical supplies and all the test kits and everything we can get. We need to really work with private industry to get all these materials that we need out to the people who need them on the front lines right now. That would be a good bullet point. And then the third one would probably be, yes, we need to make sure that people who have been lost their jobs, who've been furloughed, who've been unemployed, who've been laid off, whatever, that these people have some sort of income so they don't starve to death. And we need to make sure that we provide some sort of a safety net during this time for small business, which employs 70% of the country. We need to make sure we take care of so that the economy doesn't collapse during this period of time, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is. I think the average person on the street, if you were to walk up to 100 people, even if they were probably not even what you would consider super bright people, just average intelligence people, would be able to give you 2 or 3 things that they think we need to do right now. But here's a guy running for president who literally cannot articulate a single thing that he thinks we need to do. After claiming that he just spent literally hours on the phone with at least 3 to 4 hours a day with his team, talking about the detailed implementation. How do we get the money? Where do we do? Who do we ask for? Who do we ask for? Well, if you're the president, commander-in-chief, you're it. You're who everybody's asking for. It's on you, brother. You're the president. You better not be asking these questions if you're the president of the United States. I mean, there you go. That's how bad it is. I can't believe they're putting him out there and letting him do these interviews. And of course, all this talk about Andrew Cuomo, son of course, Mario the Pious Cuomo, ask about the fact that he's now leading Bernie and closing in on Biden for in the polls, in the betting odds actually, of running for president. Cuomo says he's not interested. He's not interested in running for president. Certainly not interested in being Biden's VP. He ain't going anywhere near that. Believe me, Biden is such a train wreck. I would say he's going to have a hard time finding a VP. Everyone knows he's going to get slaughtered. Everyone knows that. Most people know he's probably not even going to be the nominee, especially higher level people in the Democratic Party. Do you think like Klobuchar and all these people, Booker, you think that they, right now, that they actually believe that the DNC is going to go with Burisma Joe under the current circumstances? They're seeing all this stuff too. No, Cuomo don't want to get anywhere near that train wreck. He can see that. If Cuomo wants to run for president, he'll complete his term as governor. He's already run once before, but he'll complete his term as governor, and then he'll shoot for 2024 in an open year. He's not going to go up against the president right now. He's smart enough not to do that. He certainly isn't going to hitch the highlight of his career to a party that he knows is super deeply divided and is right now facing a choice between a 78-year-old crazy commie and a 77-year-old man with dementia. And the only alternative is the rotten reverend. No, I do not believe that he's that stupid. He's much better to stay put right where he is. And if he wants to run for president, he'll do it on his own terms in 2024. Plus, he knows he has no organization. He has no ability to raise money. He understands this. So this is just a fantasy that people on the left have, that somehow someone's going to come in and rescue them from Biden. There is only one person in position to come in and rescue them from Biden, and that would be Hillary. And she may do worse than Biden just because she's so damn unpopular. At least people kind of like Joe. Now, he's nuts. He's out of his mind. But at least they kind of like him. He's kind of likable. But the rotten reverend, I don't know. Obviously the Democrats are trying not to lose the Congress. They know they're going to lose the presidency, but that's not the issue. They're trying to hold on to the Congress. They're trying to hold on to the House, and they hope that they can win back the Senate. But that's not going to happen. They're just hoping to hold what they've got and not lose any more. And that was the whole point with Biden, is that we won't win with Biden, but he'll limit our losses. And the rotten Reverend Clinton offers the same. Of course, Pelosi was out attacking Trump again today, or yesterday, I should say, and he did hit back at her. He calls her a sick puppy and says she's got a lot of problems. Oh yeah, because we got the video of her walking through downtown San Francisco 2 weeks after Trump had issued the travel ban at China, and she's endorsing and welcoming people to come down to Chinatown and hang out. They got her on video. The FDA has now approved the use of hydroxychloroquine for treating coronavirus. Oh, that should drive the liberal media crazy. The very thing that Trump said 2 weeks ago, that he said was showing a lot of promise and he took so much heat for, well, the FDA has now approved hydroxychloroquine for treating coronavirus. We have Commie Bernie out promoting a strike by Instacart grocery delivery service. Now that's a brilliant move right there. And I don't know who owns this company, Instacart, or who these workers are that think that striking right now is a good idea. Nah, that's not a very good idea PR-wise. 15% of Bernie supporters are going to vote for Trump over Biden. Trump has ripped Jim Acosta a new asshole again in a press conference. And we have the ex-Obama 2008 campaign manager, David Plouffe, telling his friends in the liberal media that the left is losing the online information war. Yes, they are, and we are winning. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys stay safe, be healthy. Bye.